That guy's a cyber character. He's not real.
He's a cyber character. He's not real. I tricked you, Rob. I'm not playing the intro to the show because it's a Mario.
You didn't make a Mario song?
I should have, right? Swing
What?
from side to side.
You should just do the really bad version of the Mario, and then we get DMCA'd for that.
Yeah,
song.
They would too. I think they got us before for talking about a clip or something from the show. And there's my son saying Mario goes to space and dies. The end. He made me not put it to subscribers or to channel members today so he could say that. That was
him and son. James should write the script. I want to read it. You know,
I miss James.
Get Guillermo del Toro too. Yeah, I miss James, but he's busy.
Yeah, so we both saw the Mario movie last week now. It feels like forever. So much stuff has happened. So much Star Wars stuff.
So many hours of Santa talking about Mandalorian.
Mandalore.
Right? The lore.
The Mandalore.
Mandalorian. Yeah. Let's more lore these days. So yeah, a lot of hours of that. And yeah. Bespin's adventures and celebration, which I'll be honest, I could listen to 6 more hours of him just telling stories. You know, he's got those friends that you lose when you turn 40. You know?
Yeah,
I miss those friends. They go and say stupid shit. You get to remember. It was great. Yeah, they go away.
So yeah, I invited him to come and talk with us today, but I think he's sleeping or something, or just living life or whatever. But
like Mario, he's remember when you left Mario alone in Mario 64, he'd curl up into a ball and sleep and dream about meatballs.
Yeah.
Right? Go, it's a meatball. It's a mamma mia. Yeah.
So some of my oldest memories are being a little fat kid at the babysitter's waiting for my dad to get off work, and no snacks, after school. When you were a kid in the 80s, they didn't really give you snacks. They just said you wait until you ate your lunch, right? What's your fucking problem?
Yep.
And so I'm like super hungry, and then I watched the Super Mario Super Show, and he's always talking about pasta and spaghetti, and I was like, make me fucking hungry, Mario. One time I got heartburn because he talked about it, and I wanted that, and I gave myself heartburn from it. I remember that too. But anyways,
how do you give you from anxiety?
No, from thinking about the Italian and spicy meatballs and the sauce, like wanting that. It made like stomach acid go. Yeah.
You want to know how white bread I was? Let me tell you how white bread I was, right? My favorite Italian food was lean cuisine 3 cheese lasagna. I had to really. I was in a very. I wouldn't say it was a poor house because my dad wasn't poor. My mom was poor.
Yeah.
But my dad didn't spend any money on us, so we lived poor.
Right.
But he would get me the 3 cheese lasagna. Wouldn't let me learn how to make a lasagna. He didn't want to spend money on the oven. Said we were too poor.
Well, I told you about when I went to a friend's house from high school, and he was really poor, like real poor, like not like kind of poor, like real poor. And his mom bought ketchup from the 99-cent store and used that for the spaghetti sauce. She added water to it and added to noodles. Invited me over, and I was like, oh my God, this is easily the worst dinner I've ever had in my whole entire life.
It's the worst dinner thinking about it right now. I'd rather just have honestly, you could just have the noodle with some butter, and it would be I mean, sure, just some butter, you know what I mean? A little bit of salt,
Right.
and if the butter's unsalted, and you're good to go. You do not need diluted ketchup. Jesus freaking Christ.
Yeah, and they were used to it.
Just
they
ruining the noodle.
Yeah, they were. I know. I would have preferred the just plain noodles. But anyways, so the Bespin, he messaged me. He saw it. I think I'm right. I think he said he gave it like a 6 out of 10. And
gave Mario a 6 out of 10.
A 6 out of 10. And my response,
6 stars.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so, and my, or out of 10, 6 points, whatever. And my response to that was critically, I think you're on, and I agree with you, but functionally about what it had to do for a culture around Mario, who is the consumer base, which is everyone. I was like, I would say it was more like it was like an 8. It's not I don't think it's a great movie, but I think it's a great, functionally it's fucking on. And You have a green cup there. It just goes transparent. But but
Yeah, I got my Mario mug.
so yeah, and that's kind of my soundbite like take on it was that it like I took both of the kids to see it. My son Luke, who is here, who agrees with Steven, says that he said it was like his favorite movie he's ever seen. I felt like when he left that movie, and I said this before that David Lowery article, by the way, that this was his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles experience, like where you leave a movie where you're like, objectively, it's not a 10-star, 10 out of 10, but to me, it was like the fun I had was a 10, and like that's what the kids had on that one.
Let me exit and re-enter, Jason.
Right? Okay. So yeah, is today he's having a little bit of a choppy experience, but anyways, so yeah, we went and saw it at midnight. So we saw it like with the Mario crowd. Like we saw it with like all the people dressed up like Mario, like it was like a Star Wars thing. They gave us Mario hats, like nice hats too, for the midnight screening. I was pretty happy about it. So and I had fun, like all in all. But objectively, I can say, no, it's not. It's a bit thin. It's a bit of a cartoon, if I say what it is.
Your cartoon's a bit like a cartoon.
Yeah.
I always think about it from like two different standpoints. Is this a Mario movie I would have loved to have had when I was a kid? 1,000%. 1,000%, Not just because of the nifty special effects. Like, it's fun. It's a fun movie. Not as good as the first Turtles movie. Way better than Turtles 2. Put it that way. And the difference for me is Turtles 1 did a very interesting thing where Splinter gets captured about halfway or a little over halfway through the movie, and the Turtles are like broken and they have to sort of recenter. They go back and rescue Splinter. And they do that here in the beginning of the film. They split Mario and Luigi up in the beginning. And I think the thing would have been like if I were sitting in the room before this movie were made, right? And they were like, Rob, what do you think? There's a term we like to use in the art world called plussing. Plussing is where you don't try to tell someone how they should go back and rewrite the whole fucking movie or the comic book or whatever. You try to look at something that already exists and how can we plus it? What are you trying to achieve this is, and how can we improve upon that, as much as possible? And the thing that got me was when I was a kid, when we got the NES, my dad bought the NES literally when it came out. He got it Christmas of '85 or so. I didn't see it until summer of '86 because there was a divorce.
Yeah.
It was a whole thing. But his favorite game was the original Wrecking Crew, which featured Mario and a character named Spike. And you had like, it was like a puzzle game where you had to like break doors and bricks and walls and compete, And so they made Spike of Mario's like antagonist in the real world. And which I thought was really cool. The problem is we never see Mario and Luigi work with Spike. We hear about it. So I always feel like I would have been like, all right, what if we actually show them demolishing like the parts of the New York that his family grew up in when they were kids? Like he's destroying his history, right? Like all of his family's living with him now in the apartment. So he doesn't want to destroy things. He wants to build things. So him and Luigi quit to go out on their own. And Spike's like, you're never going to make it on your own. I run this town kind of shit, right? And that's what leads them to the Mushroom Kingdom. So when you get to the Mushroom Kingdom, it's already in another state of destruction because Bowser's blowing shit up to impress Peach, which I love that idea that he's destroying things while to impress her. And it's her kingdom. Like that, there's that disconnect. And I thought that Peach's song would have been great if it was also montage over him blowing up different parts of the kingdom. While he's singing and when he hits the keys, it drops bombs. You know what I mean? And like they explode. Like there's the visual connection between destruction and love for him,
Right.
So Mario and Luigi could get to the princess, and then that's where the first big battle hit, and Luigi would then get captured, and then the princess could feel responsible and help Mario go get his brother, kind of thing. Like there's just a little thing you could do there that just adds a little bit of subtext, kind of a little bit of the humanity to it. I don't think would add a ton of time in terms of the running time. Yeah. So, but that would be what I would do, and I'd be like, look, man, not everything. I don't think everything needs to be up or it's a cry fest. I don't certainly not Mario, but I
Yeah.
do think like getting to see those brothers experience the Mushroom Kingdom together when they first get there, you know, like
Mhm.
would have been better than them being torn apart and then he just makes a friend and, you know, I'll help you, like whatever. But look,
Yeah.
it works. I mean, and I get why I know it works because people cheered at the fucking end of the film.
Yeah.
Like at a 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday, you know, with a bunch of adults and they were
Right.
cheering. So, hey man,
And
I don't hear a lot of cheering at theaters these days, you know?
yeah, we went to the midnight screening, and I found that midnight screenings, sometimes you do have crowds that are just like all about it no matter what. But when a movie truly like breaks in a midnight screening and doesn't work, people are deflated by the end. They're just
Happened to me with the
tired
Phantom Menace.
and they're just,
Broke.
hey,
Oh, physically. No, I meant physically
no.
the movie broke. You
Oh
mean
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, and that was the thing is like the jokes seem to be for the most part landing with the audience and stuff like that. I wasn't over, like I said, I wasn't over the moon about it. Like I wouldn't defend it as a good film. I wouldn't defend it as a good script or like a tight story, but I did feel like it took me through everything that I love from the Mario universe in the world, and usually it was delightful, I would say, overall. My biggest gripe about the movie is actually Princess Peach, not necessarily Taylor Joy's performance as Peach or like her voice. If she was like Mario all the time, I think I would want to die if I had listened to that for like 2 hours. Or the movie was an hour and a half, I think, and so I wouldn't want that either. But there was a little bit of like, there was a lot of unearned moments with her character about like just what her plight is and what they're doing, and it was like just like kind of go with it. It's what they wanted you to do, but that's where I felt the closest to like cringing at the movie, and that's where it was like kind of like bothering me the most. If your camera is messing with you and you want to just turn the camera off, by the way, you can just do
Yeah.
that if
You
you
can hear
want
me
to.
fine, right?
I can hear you great. Yeah, just the
Yeah,
camera for some reason.
it's StreamYard.
Okay, strange.
100%.
Yeah, but yeah, but anyways, the stuff with that, with like, and like the Mario Brothers like relationship, though, to its credit, when it does start, they do a little bit of work up front where, you know, Mario and Luigi have a dream, and that's to start their own plumbing company. It's not really going great, and the family's laughing at them from their ad, which is fucking awesome. The ad was awesome because it used the old Super Mario Super Show rap song for it, and I appreciated that callback for the old adults. Well, then again, a lot of kids watch that show too on streaming, so maybe it goes beyond old adults. But it was that stuff, like all of that stuff with the family, like saying you're bringing your brother down and that kind of stuff. It kind of gave Mario a little bit of like shame and a little bit about why he needed to not mess it up once his brother is separated from him. And like one of the criticisms that I've seen is that they shouldn't have been separated, that they just should have stayed together. But I think if you do that, then you end up spreading up the Mario training with Luigi, because then Luigi's training too. And by the end of the movie, the spoilers to this, obviously, um, Mario gets the superstar, and his brother does too, and is invincible. But you don't get that moment without Mario being the one to get them in the moment. So yeah. Like overall, like I feel like it didn't really drop the ball on too many things. Like I didn't see anything about like Wario and stuff like that. I didn't see anything about Waluigi or like those guys. So it's like the Toadette wasn't there, but like everything else was there. Like everything else that kind of was part of that Nintendo world was. So Steven says he likes how they were split up. Yeah, I did too, because like actually my son Luke, we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I was like, what do you think about if they hadn't done that? And he was like, well, then you don't get Luigi scared, and Luigi being scared is like a part of his character, and that he gets frightened and that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, you know what, that's pretty true. And we also don't end up with, you know, the conversations between Bowser and him which is kind of how he starts to figure out that who Mario is, and that he's the mustache man and all that. But I do get that Peach song in my head, though.
Yeah, man. He could win an Oscar for that. Like,
that would be
an original song.
It's true. Yeah, but
I think the strongest part of the film is that the characters are likable. Like you like them all. You're never like, even if like the problem with the princess is like, if there is a problem, is that it's kind of a one-dimensional thing where like when she sees Mario for the first time and she's like, oh, you're a human. There you go. But there's no like, the mushrooms, the toads aren't like preventing her from having an adventure. They're not like, we must keep you here. You must rule the king. There's no like forcing her to not. There's something there story-wise that's very Phantom Menace-y, where they don't have an army and she needs to go to the Kongs to get an army. It's
almost the same structure for a long time.
Right.
It is.
Right. But it's also not really like fleshed out in a way. It's just sort of like explained and moved on, right?
Yeah.
Because the part that throws me out a little bit, like, is when Mario gets there and he's like, my brother Luigi, we gotta go help, we gotta save him, and she's like, all right, but first you gotta go do this obstacle course, and then he's there for like days, like your brother might die, man. Like, that's why they should have learned all that stuff before Luigi gets captured, because then he has to, if he learns it as he goes and has to put it into use on the adventure, there you go. But they didn't have that, so they just gave an obstacle course where he just sits there and you have to hit a pause on the story for a bit while he learns it, right? And visually it came out great, but story wise you're like, it's not a good lesson to learn if you're writing. Like, you don't
that's no, I actually think when you get down to it, like what was sort of, I think, confusing about it as a script is we see them running to the job. And when he runs to the job, we go into like side scroller camera mode. And we see Mario running and opening up everything for Luigi, but he's literally playing the game. He's letting down the pole in front of the castle burger plates and everything like that. So we see that he has all of the skills that he needs to do what he does in the Mario video game already. But then he gets to when it gets to the video game, as we'll call it, then he all of a sudden doesn't have those skills. And that's where I was a little bit like, yeah, you wanted to do the cute moment, but in reality, the cute moment was what said he could already do this. So why are you doing? You know what I mean? Like just function like as a script. But I have a feeling you probably would have better insight than me that this movie is this way because it was a compromise between getting Nintendo to be like, okay, like you could do this movie at all.
Some of it, yeah. Some of it is clearly studio driven, and I can show you exactly what's studio driven. Every time a pop song appears in an animated film, that is a studio executive demanding that to happen somewhere. I'm not saying the head of the studio, but an executive made that happen. And Jeff Smith, the creator of the comic book series Bone, had a little panel, I want to say 2001 or 2, somewhere around there, I don't know. I was in the room because he was making an animated film at the time with Nickelodeon, and it fell through. And he was saying that like they kept wanting to put Britney Spears songs in the Bone movie. And if you know anything about Bone, it's like Lord of the Rings meets Pogo.
Oh, really?
You know, like it's
so it would be like adding Metallica to Willow.
Exactly. Which, by the way, I firmly believe is a studio executive to somewhere, like, hey, John Kazin's an executive, he's running the show, so someone above the people who know better were like, we're getting that in there.
I call that a
so
cast
you can it's not that it doesn't work. Like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show like song in there is genius. The Kill Bill song would have worked had it been when later on in the movie when she's literally dressed up as a bride and she goes to kick everyone's ass. Because it comes from Kill Bill, where the main character's name was the bride. Like, that's where you play the joke. Yeah. But like throwing it in the beginning, it's weird throwing it in the beginning only because our first teaser for the film was that whole sequence, but it was a little bit longer. I'd love to time it up. Like they trimmed a little shot here or there. I could feel it,
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt a little snappier, and I don't think good snappier. Like there was a little bit more of a pause, like when Bowser came out and challenged the king, and there was more of a pause, like in a battle stance. Here
Right.
it was like quickly get to it, and then the song adds like a level of rushness to that scene that it didn't need, you know. So
Yeah.
it's just stuff like that that you're like, that's the hand of the editor. That's like, we got to get it under 90 minutes, 90 minutes, and I'm like, okay, 91 minutes is okay. You know, like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be exactly 90 minutes. Like,
Yeah. When the the score itself is like using Mario music, and it's really bold actually, and it's really like in the forefront, and like like there's that one scene where we get like "Take on Me" instead of it being scored as well, the Aha song, and I don't necessarily hate it, but as I
which
was
predates Mario.
oh
You
yeah,
know, like
but also something that you might have been listening to while you played the first game. But as I'm
sure.
as I'm no, but as like I'm watching the movie, I was like kind of having this conversation in my head because I'm like, number one, I wish this whole movie was just scored. But then at the
Yeah.
or we just had that. But then at the
Well,
same time,
the
I started
Super
to,
Show song would be acceptable.
of course. But as it started to go on, I started to kind of like think this score may be too much to take just straight through the whole time. Like as I was hearing it overall. And I do hope at some point they release it because I'm curious about it. Like I'm really curious what it's like with the original score through the whole thing without the source music or whatever you want to call it, the real world music.
Well,
Like,
I think also, and I won't look. I've only seen the movie once. I'd
yeah.
like to go back and pay attention. But when him and his brother finally get back together,
Mhm.
there should be an orchestral version of that Super Show, their commercial song. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because you got to tie that theme, that little beat together into the Mario theme, and I don't think it happened. Because
Yeah.
I think if it happened, I would have immediately picked up on it. You know, but I'm not gonna say I know for certain. I wouldn't put $50 on it. It might be there, but
Yeah.
it's not there in a
I don't think
significant
I don't think it
way.
is. I don't think it's there, but maybe I missed it too.
Right. And look, man, these are things that the directors ideally would be the ones paying attention to. So I know, like, when fans go, Rob, you're paying too much attention to it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this is what they would do. This is their job. You know, their job is, they aren't producers where they're just managing shots to come in and we slot them in and you kick the film out the door like it's a pizza pie. You know, like directors are supposed to be like, okay, what if we turn all the dialogue off, how are we connecting this together with the visuals and the audio, blah blah blah
Right.
blah blah. You know, like that's why they watch the movie hundreds of times, you know? So
Do you remember what you were listening to when you played Super Mario Brothers for the
the
first time?
music, Super Mario Bros. The music drove my dad fucking nuts. I didn't want anything. I just listened to that music. I wanted only the video game music. I didn't want anything else taking me out the game, you know?
Yeah,
So
I had some New Kids on the Block going. I had some Paula Abdul Forever Your Girl. Yeah, I probably had some Young Guns 2 soundtrack going and some Dr. Demento probably, some Weird Al, most likely. But yeah, but Mike, but as weird as all of that was, Mike Porter was listening to Bing Crosby.
what
Okay.
the only Bing Crosby I ever listened to was that singing sword that Eddie Valiant pulls out, right?
Oh,
Like,
right.
yeah.
Remember when he did that song with David Bowie? Didn't he? Was that Bing Crosby? The bum 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 bum. Anyways,
I
I don't
didn't
know.
listen to a lot of David Bowie when I was a kid. I didn't even know who he was
Mm,
when I watched Labyrinth. Like,
really?
I
Yeah.
knew I knew after the fact that was him in Under Pressure, but I didn't know it was David Bowie at the
Yeah.
time, you know?
Right.
So.
Yeah. But anyways, though, that music, like the orchestral versions of it, like I said, are pretty strong. I am curious if it would work with the movie scored the whole time. And if I was doing it, if I was scoring the movie, I wonder if they tried this. When they're in, was it Brooklyn or just New York? I don't remember. But when they're in Mario's homeland, I would have probably used real world music in those scenes. And then when
Sure.
we're in Peach's Mushroom Kingdom, that's when we in Bowser's place. That's where we get
Sure.
the score and stuff.
But
They could have, yeah,
again, that's storytelling through audio design, you know?
yeah,
And look, man, it's so tough because I mean, like, I've sat there, like I've worked on Nintendo packages, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
you're presenting to Nintendo, and even like in apparel, it's like all the boards have to be designed in a way. The presentation materials have to be designed with their aesthetic and their thoughts. Like every little bit you present to them has to be fulfilling the dream of Mario that they project. Until
Yeah.
they make a Mario game that throws out the door like Mario Odyssey, and they're like, we don't care. So like they were like,
Right.
no realistic anything in our Mario. Then they put in literally just realistic shit left and right in that game. So whatever. But like, I think that managing Universal, the head of Illumination,
Mm-hmm.
and Nintendo, like you almost have to get two directors who aren't auteurs yet that are just willing to play ball. Because if you got in, if you got in some Pixar alumni or the Mitchells versus the Machines crew or Lord and Miller, right? Lord and Miller, they're gonna do it their way, like
Yeah.
that's like getting this across the plate with Nintendo being as fickle as they are had to be really difficult to manage,
Right. Yeah, and with the like comedy and stuff, I would imagine that your hands are kind of tied with Nintendo about what they would allow and what they wouldn't. I mean, I'm just guessing. I'm just assuming that that's how it would go. But I think for the most part, they did a good job of like the comedy not feeling like it was referential to something else. You know what I mean? Like if it was
Yeah.
1997, they weren't doing the Macarena, and it wasn't only funny because it was referring to that thing that was a dance craze last year. And I didn't really see too much of anything like that for the most part.
Or when, I'm not shitting on Ghostbusters 2016 like everyone else did, but the one joke I found totally inappropriate was the Exorcist joke.
Mm-hmm.
Because that movie Exorcist predates Ghostbusters, and Ghostbusters wasn't making Exorcist jokes.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Like you're referencing something that don't even. It's tied to this in the loosest of ways. Like it's just what maybe this actress or actor or writer thought of when they thought of ghosts. But that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with. And I could see in this someone making some water ice bucket challenge or joke or
Tide Pods. Something.
Pods.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Also, Bobby Brown on her own was listening to that while I played Nintendo. That's for sure.
Honestly, if you had to get a celebrity voice, I would have got Millie Bobby Brown as Princess Peach because she's British.
Yeah.
And I think having that British accent would have placed Princess Peach in a better position audibly than Mario. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And
I'm not a
is
fan
is
of
Anya
stunt
Taylor Joy
of
American
actors.
and like natively?
I've never heard her with a British accent.
Okay, yeah.
She was like Danish.
I think she's like Spanish and something else. But anyways,
I don't know.
Yeah. That's strangely the actor who I probably like the best
she's
from
Argentine and British, but she doesn't have a British accent, right?
Okay. Yeah,
I've
so
never
she
heard
is
her with the British.
I think she's British then. Yeah, so she's
raised in Buenos Aires and London, apparently.
Yeah, so she should.
Whatever.
So they made a conscious choice to make her an American, to give her an American
but
voice.
Nintendo wouldn't have gone with the British accent too. Again, like that's just one of those things that sounds like that's not what she's like, and it's like,
yeah,
all right, man. Which version of Mario then? Because like Lou Albano Mario ain't the same as Charles Martinet Mario.
It's actually a little bit closer to this one though. I felt like this was closer to the Mario we had in the cartoon, in the old 80s cartoon that went from when we were kids. It was closer to it. And and a lot was made about Chris Pratt. I literally just thought it was stunt casting at the end of the day. I don't think he brought anything magical to the role, but I don't think he distracted or ruined it at all either.
Nobody is turning on this movie and thinking Chris Pratt when they hear Mario speak.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what it really feels like for fans, and I can't blame them, is when you've been listening to a voice actor do something for 30 years and you want to get them a win.
Yeah.
And you feel like they're being replaced because they're not cool enough for the marketing.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I there is, whether he's the best actor for the role or not is irrelevant.
Mhm.
But I do agree with that in that it's an animated film. The voice, I mean, unless it's wholly inappropriate, which by the way, I do believe there's an inappropriate voice in this movie. It's Cranky Kong. Cranky
Mhm.
Kong don't sound a fucking thing like Cranky Kong acts in any Donkey Kong Country game ever. Like when you
Yeah.
come across Cranky Kong in that hut in Donkey Kong Country, you're not like, that's a jovial young chap, you know?
Yeah, that's Armisen. Nobody said that one, and it is Armisen just doing an Armisen character basically, and not that character. I would
I
say.
always imagined the uncle from Christmas Vacation who comes in when he's got the stogie, you know, lights the cat on fire, you know?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I
We're
would get like
staying the pledge, you
I
know?
want. Yeah, I wanted like George Burns or something, but
Yeah,
yeah,
like a George, same type, same type.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're on
Yeah.
the same page with that. Yeah, and but also, that era of the Donkey Kong thing to me isn't a thing to me, so it didn't really bother me. Like the
Well,
original Donkey Kong like game itself, like obviously, and like the early Donkey Kong stuff. But once he went 3D, I wasn't a big Donkey Kong Country guy or anything like that. Never really
yeah, I
connected
disagree with
with
that.
it.
The
Well,
thing though
I
is like
wasn't. You can be. I just wasn't.
Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm.
So the Donkey Kong from the 1981, 83 game or whatever
Is him
is
old?
Cranky Kong. Yeah, Mario never ages, but that's yeah. So in Donkey Kong Jr. is the DK that we know
So
that
in
grows up
Monkey
to be
Donkey years, they age faster.
yeah, they age faster. I don't know, man, dude.
The
That's why I
donkey
say
years.
like
Yeah.
like you could try to make sense out of all this all you want, but it's just headcanon it at some point.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, you just go with it, you know, like you don't take it so serious. But the thing though that I say with that is it would have been interesting if if Cranky Kong's wife was Pauline from the first Mario game and her and Peach didn't get along. Like if Pauline and Peach were sisters, and that's why those kingdoms didn't get along, is she had to mend a relationship with her sister, and through like seeing Mario's love of his brother, you see what I mean? There's things you can do here, Jason. You know, that you can use what you have, take the lore, you know what I mean, and like you can further it just a little bit, so no one can fucking go, well, it didn't have that, so that means it's not a great movie. I'm like, fuck you, man. There's a lot of fucking movies out there that ain't got it that you people love. I'm gonna tell you right now, man. There's very little humanity in most Christopher Nolan films. Like, this is not even pretend, you know?
Yeah.
like there's amazingness, but humanity, very little.
Yeah.
Inception probably being the closest that he's ever got to telling a human story.
His movies feel like an operating room to me. So, for the most part,
I love what was the World War II the one he did?
Dunkirk.
Yeah, I love Dunkirk, but a human story is 1917, right? Like Dunkirk is like just an experience, you know.
Yeah.
So two different things.
With the clicky clock soundtrack.
That's the thing. Is deep in that DK. Yeah, I'm fucking balls deep in that DK lore, man. Look, RF Gaming Channel. I told you, if you're gonna be, I learned when I was younger. If I'm gonna be a nerd, I want to know what I'm talking about, and I want to love the shit I love. You know, like. So I love me Nintendo and Nintendo lore, and I love all that stupid shit. So when if something that is inherently dumb is throwing me off, understand there's a reason for it. It's not just my opinion. There's something else, you know. Like there's a difference between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. I walked out of Sonic 2, you know, and Sonic 1. I was asking myself, like, okay, do I watch Sonic 1 on a loop or the Mario movie on a loop? Sonic 1 has way more heart. But Mario doesn't have any of these annoying human actors minus Jim Carrey, who's great, but everyone else is fucking straight up annoying in the Sonic movie. So for me, Mario beats out Sonic simply because I don't have to put up with James Marsden and his family. And if I had to sit through if I have to sit through the obstacle course on a loop or the cowboy bar scene on a loop, which one do you think I'm going to watch? I mean, I like the cowboy bar scene, but it's not the same as the obstacle course, right? So
yeah. Yeah, no, that was kind of like in my head when I knew that Rogan was going to be playing Donkey Kong.
Joe Rogan?
Yeah, Joe Rogan. He's like, hey, you heard about these mushrooms? They're from
100%.
space. They're from the
100%.
space. But no, I thought they were going to do a thing like with Mario doing the Donkey Kong thing at the start to save to save that princess, and then that was going to be like how he gets into the thing. That was like just where my head went right away, instead of what they did, But yeah, and for the record, I tried to watch the Sonic movie, the first one. I couldn't stand it. It annoyed me. I never finished it. It just it wasn't for me.
When he goes, when he ends up in Montana, I'm like, is this gonna be like Far Cry? He hooks up with the militia. Like Sonic, I want to see Sonic taking out the White Hoods. That would be amazing.
N64 Rescue says Mario is better overall. They did a good job of pleasing people of all ages all over the world, and that is like both its strength and its flaw, right? I mean, like as a film, like as a film itself, it has like really big weaknesses. But then as a thing where everybody's going to go to the theater who grew up playing these games and still plays these games, like what it did, I feel like everybody for the most part had fun. I haven't heard of anybody leaving and being like that just like crushed me, like me after Willow. I haven't heard of anybody having that response to it. So
I'll tell you the thing that it smartly did is it didn't take shots at Mario. It didn't make fun of itself, right?
Yeah.
Like, look how stupid this actually is.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, man, that's the difference between like a Marvel movie these days and even Avatar, where where you're in the middle of a dramatic scene and then they gotta like tell a stupid joke, like in the Marvel movie.
But what was the tagline to the original Mario movie? This ain't a game.
Yeah. Again, it's taking shots at Mario. When you see that, you're like, oh man, like what are you doing?
Right.
So again, when you take the tagline, "This isn't your dad's Star Trek," well, the people that are gonna get their kids to go see this shit is their dad. You know what I mean? Like you probably shouldn't take shots at those people. You need to get those people in just to cover base. But when you're like, we're not even getting the marks in, we're gonna use the marks as our antiviral advertising campaign. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to do with that. Like, there's other ways to go about this.
The original Mario film from like 93, 94 is like so weird it's interesting kind of thing in 2023. But when it came out, I saw the ads and I was like, fuck that. I'm not seeing that shit. That isn't Super Mario at all. I don't know what this is, but this is some try hard. I want to be angsty, but I'm going to do it through the fucking Super Mario Brothers. I was like, fuck that movie. And I didn't watch it.
Also, it's a matter of execution. Like if I told you the story of that movie and I told you the story of this movie, it's not a colossal difference in basic idea, right? You take out the Donkey Kongs and stuff, but the idea of we're separated and we got to get together and we got to stop King Bowser. The execution's totally different. So like when we're watching a certain season of a science fiction show and someone tells me, "No, Rob, look, they did it," because when you explain it to me, it's
space fantasy.
I'm like, yeah, you did explain and they did say something's there, but that doesn't mean the execution means that they pulled that idea off. They just placed it there and said that we did it.
It checkboxed it as opposed to it's a whataboutism for storytelling rather than like actual telling that story effectively. I'm with you.
Or experiencing the story, or however you want to do it. I was
Comic Ben says I dug the latest film and his nephews loved it. So sorry, Rob. Didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay. You gonna block me? Because every time Paul gets involved, I get blocked by.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're being blocked. Yeah, no, but I mean, I didn't feel like also that each character though, other than the one that you mentioned, which to me is irrelevant to me, all of the characters felt like the characters though. Like I was a little bit worried, like the Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong thing. I was kind of afraid that like that wouldn't really play. It would just be like stone Seth Rogen and be like, I'm Donkey Kong, isn't this funny? But for the most part, like there was character in there. And it felt like everything, even that's the one that was probably like the most stretched for me, but like the stuff like Toad and Peach and Mario and Luigi and stuff like that, I was like, okay, yeah, that feels like it feels right. Like if these were cutscenes in a game, in a Mario, really good cutscenes in that 4K Nintendo we're gonna get someday when we're like 90.
We're never getting that.
When we're 90.
We're never getting that. It'll be 4K, but it'll be the same graphics. I mean, no offense, there isn't a giant difference between what the GameCube did and what the Switch is doing today.
No,
There
I'm
just
with
isn't.
you.
I mean, you had Bloom, and maybe they understand better shader techniques, right? Because the
Yeah.
coins are all done in shaders now versus like straight modeling. So like, but it's not when that's why when they remaster a GameCube game like Link's, like when they put a Wind Waker on the Wii U, and you're like, it's this, it looks the same with Bloom. Like, yeah, it's not. I don't think we're getting. I mean, that's 20 years of essentially the same hardware, Jason. Like,
Yeah.
like if they showed you Rogue Squadron for the GameCube coming on Switch and they didn't change a fucking thing, people would be losing their minds at how great it looks. You know, like that's
Yeah.
it's a shame what Nintendo. Like, I know I get doing things on a budget and the off the shelf uh, mentality of them, but
Yeah.
at the same time, man, like I would like to see a fucking amazing looking Mario game before I fucking legally retire.
But like I said, make a Nintendo that operates at the level of the Xbox and the current PlayStation, and then make lower powered ones and make a Switch Lite. You know what I mean? And let there be the option.
Walmart's the problem, Jason.
You
The
know,
problem with all of this is Walmart. And I'm
Mhm.
being 1,000% serious. It has to do with their increasingly limited shelf space.
Yeah.
So before you used to have big box toy stores, game stores at the mall, all this other different spots,
Right.
all those go away as Walmart, you know, gobbles up everything, and Mitt Romney decides to tank all the toy stores.
Yeah.
And then now you got a place where they're like, we got one aisle for games, and Nintendo ain't getting double the coverage, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
But if they did it, and if that was the problem, and Walmart wouldn't do it, then they make a deal with Target, make it exclusive to Target for retail. Do something. They would. The money's just waiting there. There's everyone of our generation would be willing to spend it. And I think most of the people who actually like gaming would too. And I get it though. I don't want like that. Like Nintendo's wise to understand that like they want to appeal to the most people that they can that possible, and that they want little kids to be able to play Pokemon and Mario and stuff like that, and not be like priced out of the market. Makes complete sense. But also at the price point that they're operating at today, I think is cheaper than the original Nintendo, and that was that was our Beatlemania. That was huge. Everybody had one. So it's not even exactly like I think they've gone overboard. And but
I would agree they've taken it too far.
yeah.
It look, man, you know, I'm as critical as everyone with Microsoft. I do own a Series X now because they bought Double Fine, and I will own any. I got to support the. If I don't buy an Xbox and support Double Fine that way, if I just bought games on PC, then it doesn't justify their reasoning for purchasing that studio. So I will always support Double Fine Studios. So,
Mhm.
but when I got into that space, all of a sudden Xbox paths chats start coming up on my Twitter, right? Like it knows I bought an Xbox. And people were complaining about the Series S to no end. And I'm like, I would kill for Nintendo's new system to be the Series S.
Yeah. Me too.
You know what I mean? Like we aren't getting the Series S from Nintendo for another 20 years. Like
Yeah.
your son is gonna, you know what I mean? Your son's gonna be older than like
Yeah, no, I was
25.
playing that like new Mario, or the one where Mario goes to the city. What's that one called? Mario, is that Odyssey?
Odyssey.
Yeah, I'm like playing that, and I'm just like, it's a good game. I think for the most part, it's fun, but it really wasn't pushing anything too far forward, and because of that, it's like, I don't know, it wasn't a big enough jump for me, like you were kind
And
of
because they
saying.
can't do anything more from a technical standpoint, they keep leaning on like, what soft pastel minimal design can we do to make this really artsy? And I'm like, this shit's boring.
Yeah,
It's just boring. Like it's just boring. So
right.
sometimes, Nintendo, I get the whole, ever since the Nintendo 64, like ate a hole in their bank account, they've been like, graphics aren't the answer. I'm like, okay, I get what you mean, but you have to be relevant. too, you know, like
Yeah.
when your freaking iPhone can produce 10 times the graphical fidelity of a Nintendo Switch, we got a real problem. And I don't mean an iPhone
Yeah.
now. I mean an iPhone from like 7 years ago. So
Yeah.
like it's a real problem, man.
Sam, really quickly, he said, "Did anyone ever play Maniac Mansion?" Oh yeah, I played it on the Nintendo. I didn't have the computer version, but right now there's like a new anniversary edition out, and you can buy like a Nintendo cartridge with it right now. Like they're selling a Nintendo cartridge, and they're selling like other versions of it. So if you ever wanted to play it again, I think you can actually like get it like collectible version of it on. It's like one of those Lucasfilm re-releases, but
You
yeah,
want to hear my answer to that?
Mhm.
It's not only my favorite game on the NES, it's probably the most important video game eh, to me because it was the first time I played something that I didn't have to beat. I had to figure out. Like it was like
Yeah.
playing an animated movie with the characters, and I could take my time. And it was the opposite, and it encouraged experimentation and breaking the game. The first time I was like, "Oh, you broke the game. You have to basically do it all over again because you can literally
Mm.
go no further. You kill that hamster, you're never going to be able to beat the game." You know, like
Just
which
put it in the
is actually
microwave.
a pretty good lesson. Don't put hamsters in the microwave.
Don't
You're
do
going to
it.
lose. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, Ron Gilbert. I still follow. Actually, he's the only person I follow him and Anna Kipnis on Mastodon. I follow two people. They left Twitter and went to Mastodon on the game dev server. So I signed up just so I could follow Ron Gilbert and his exploits into game dev over there. And I do recommend. He did a game with Double Fine called The Cave, which is a fun game. I think you can play on. I think you can play on Xbox. I haven't looked
Mm.
on that Games Pass, but might have been they had a deal with Sega on that one. I
That
don't know,
sounds
but
familiar. That does
yeah,
sound familiar.
yeah, super fun.
Yeah.
And the new Monkey Island is pretty awesome, dude. If you haven't played Return to Monkey Island or whatever,
Yeah.
highly
I went
recommend it.
I went to Super Nintendo World yesterday. I took Luke and Penny there, and it turns out you have to get like reservations to get into it. I didn't know that, but we got one. And so we ended up going at like 4 o'clock. It's like 3,000 degrees outside yesterday. The whole park is in the sun in Southern California. So it's just beating the hell out of you. And but we walk into the park, we like look around, and the first thing I see is a line. And I'm just like, well, we want to do it all. I'm like, let's just get in this line and get it over with. And we're going through this line for like an hour. That's like over an hour that we're in this line. And I think it's for, I don't even know what it's really for. This is my fault. I'm an idiot. But when we get up to the end of the line, you know what it was for? There was this little playground area, like about the size of a bedroom, with some clocks in it. And if you have the band, you could punch the clocks to do the game on your app. I was pretty mad about that. That was a big mistake. And then so I was like, I told the kids, they're like, no, we don't want to do this. Let's get out of here. So we like go to leave, but we're all thirsty from being in the sun in that line. And then like they don't sell any water in the park. They're like, where they ran out. They're like, I don't know. She's like, it might be 5 minutes, it might be 2 hours. I was like, but we can't leave. If we leave, we can't come back. You know? She's like, sorry. And
you know what you do, man? You just go to the toilet, drink right out the toilet.
yeah,
But you know the water coming down the urinal is safe to drink. It's when it hits the urinal bottom you got a problem. So you just got to get right at the survival tips.
we ended up getting in line and doing the Mario Kart ride. I don't remember what it's officially called, but it's pretty amazing. You have to put like this like VR thing on your head, and then when you sit down, that's where you put like the screen on. It's like a transparent screen, and like 4 of you sit in like in a car, and you guys like steer according to when it tells you to, but then you're able to like shoot, you know, turtle shells and stuff at stuff that comes at you, but you can't just like fire crazy. You have to like you have like 20 shells at a time or something, and then you're able to like play. It's like a fun VR AR Mario game, and it was super cool. Luke loved it. Luke said it was great. I don't know if it was 3 hours, waiting 3 hours in the sun, good for the most part, until you got into a certain part of the ride, but or line. But yeah, but like as I was there, I was like, I have a deeper respect for Galaxy's Edge that I A lot of things I just took for granted about it. Because it's like that whole park is just like a small world. The whole thing is just like, I'm Yoshi, and it just does this, like over and over. There's like nothing that's like really like you're there. And I enjoyed it though. I was still like happy. I was like, I've always wanted to see this since I was like a little kid. I was like, they should make this. And like it was rad to actually be there. And it was sort of surreal to be with like my kids. And in the same week, having gone and seen a Super Mario Brothers movie in the movie theater that was actually the Mario Brothers and not like Leguizamo and that fucking dude from Roger Rabbit. And like, and then like to be like in that place, I was like, well, I lived it. I lived to see it. Checkboxed for life. But it's definitely it was definitely cool. But I couldn't go to the restaurant or anything. They have like a restaurant in there. They serve like crazy spaghettis and stuff. But you have to have like a reservation.
Ketchup with water.
Ketchup, yeah, probably tastes like that since it's universal. It probably does taste like
We're
that.
out of water because we were making pasta sauce all day with the ketchup.
Yeah.
No. Dear God, no.
Yeah, probably.
Look, Jason, it could be worse, man. You did go to Santa's workshop in San Bernardino Mountains.
Oh, Santa's Village, friend. Santa's Village. And no, I never got to go. I've been, it's abandoned now. It's like a creepy, like you could like watch like urban explorers go there now, by the way, on YouTube, I believe. And it's all creepy looking and stuff. But I always wanted to go, but my parents are always like, we'll go to Magic Mountain, or something like that. Yeah, they weren't they weren't.
Yeah, they knew we're taking to a real theme park.
Yeah, I had young parents, so they were like, we're not doing that boring shit. What are you talking about?
Sit on an old man's lap. Dude, we go to the mall for that. Like,
hey, now I do Santa show as an adult, so figure it out. Was it a mistake?
You got to sit on his lap.
I
just want that. I want a photo of it for Christmas more than anything in the world.
But
I do want to say this though, Matt. We're an hour in, so we'll spoil the post credit sequence with the Yoshi egg thing. Like
Yoshi, yeah.
Look, that would have been fun, except in the movie, Mario walks past a whole tribe of Yoshis.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they should have cut that scene out, and so the only time you get the bit of Yoshi is with the post-credit scene. It's not that special. We just saw like there's like 300 Yoshis like in that scene.
No, and you know what? Like I could see like the logic in it, where if we do it this way, then they think we forgot and we're trying to make up for it. But my thing was, since you didn't forget, Yoshi just should have been a character, and since you didn't make Yoshi a character, then you shouldn't have done it. But what I thought, or had him in there at all. But what I thought they were going to do is I thought they were going to have Luigi find Yoshi, and then he was going to be afraid of it, like it was the dog from before. But then they become fast friends.
Yeah, I told you, there's stuff on the table, but no, it doesn't really get utilized.
Yeah. But I do think if they make a second movie, they don't get the pass that I'm giving them on this one, where they just made everything like super fun. Like if they make another one, everybody knows each other. The interpersonal relationships will have to. Well, yeah, with the amount of money it made, the one that they're making right now, right as we speak, that they're hiring writers for, probably. The relationships,
writers,
and stuff like that. Writers, yeah.
So I'll talk about the writing. Michael Fogel's credited with the screenplay on this, and chances are there's a bunch of people behind that, but that's how the guild worked out. So Fogel gets the credit. Right. Fogel wrote the Lego Movie 2, which is a passable Lego movie. It's nowhere near as good as Lego Movie 1 or Batman Lego, in my opinion, but it's serviceable. It's fine. Despicable Me, he's also credited with Minions 2, right? And Minions 2, although everyone seems to love it, I stand by it as a complete dog shit film that has nothing to do with the Minions. It's Despicable Me 4 that they put Minions, because the Minions you never should have really seen them with Gru. You should have been like, what happens when Gru's gone? And it's their life after Gru, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's Despicable Me 4. You spend the first 15 minutes of the movie with the villains in that movie. And I'm like, when I watch this film, I'm like, yeah, that seems like a Fogel thing here. Like the guy seems pretty consistent with that sort of stuff. And, when it comes to the sequel, it's going to be one of two things, Jason. It's going to be Nintendo heard the story wasn't enough and you got to do something about that. or they're gonna triple down on not really mattering. There's gonna be no balance. This is not a studio that's known for balance.
Okay. Yeah. No, my children loved the Minions, and so I know something. I'm more familiar with it than I should be with the Minion stuff, and I'm with you
love
on
that first
the
Minions movie.
first one is like it's a movie, and
Yeah.
then the second one also plays really good with children.
When they go to Villains Con and they hook up with that psycho family and they're robbing banks,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then Villains Con's located in Florida, which is hilarious. And then it's also taking shots at no, there's way more under the surface shit going on in the first Minions movie. The second Minions movie is as surface as it gets. Like, the animators are doing their job. I'm not talking about the animation. The animators are brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the cat who wrote the shit. And I'm not a fan of Michael Fogel's work at all. I really think they should. I know like studios always you always go to your friends, and that's how I get work. So I get it. But if I was them, man, I'd really have them take a look at whoever wrote the Mitchells versus the Machines or something, because that's a movie that I think did pop, but also did fun in a far stronger way than Pixar has been pulling it off for a long time. And I know you haven't seen it, but Mitchells versus the Machine is like the movie that Incredibles 2 should have been. So like it's I mean, that's a movie Brad Bird can learn from. It's not a movie running on autopilot.
Yeah.
So, and it had strong visual design as well and all that other stuff. So
right.
I hope it leans more that way. But I'm with you. If it's just like, here's all the Super Mario World and Mario 2 references, for another 90 minutes.
Here's all of the references that we forgot from the other movie. Then you're gonna be like, all right.
And by the way, I know like there are fans out there who are like, I don't care, I just want that. All right. But if that's Zelda, if they make a Zelda thing where it's just goofy references, see what I mean? You can't apply this. You can't apply this formula to every Nintendo thing. Yeah. Zelda can't be well, excuse me, jokes and shit, if you know what I'm talking about with that one, like it's gonna have to be something with heart, a little bit more heart, than
I know. I was thinking about that after I saw it. I was almost like, because they have to make it comedic in some way if they want to play to the pander to that audience, especially like Illumination. And I was like, I wonder if they make Link way too crazy about the quest. Like that. The Labyrinthia dog, who's who's little too much into being a knight. I want not like that. Yeah, the dog who rides a dog as a horse. So great. But it's like I almost wonder if you like make him where he's really into like that mystical side, and everyone else is a little bit like, you're kind of crazy, but he is doing that quest that is real to him, kind of thing. But yeah, I'm
Link
curious.
doesn't talk, so you're gonna have to give him a voice, or you're gonna have to come up with some way that he lost his ability, or he doesn't. I mean,
yeah,
that presents a whole
Kokiri children don't speak, or whatever, however they would want to spin it, because which lore do they pull from and all that stuff if they ever do it. But something tells me we'll probably have two more Mario movies before we even really get to that bridge with them, of we have to switch it up now. So we probably will have a second Mario movie and a third one on the way before that even happens, I would think. But
which is funny because Link did talk in the cartoon.
Yeah.
When he did, you wanted to smack him in the face.
Yeah. Excuse me, princess. And
it was not good.
You know what? There was a couple of other weird voices back then. Remember Mother Brain? It was like Mr. Jefferson or something, I want to say.
Remember when Mega Man had to say mega every 3 seconds? Mega this and mega that?
Yeah, and both Kid Icarus and Mega Man were like, rah, 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 when they talked. It was strange. It's like they smoked too much.
Simon Belmont is still the voice I give him whenever I play a Castlevania game, though. Like a narcissistic.
Simon's on. Yeah, Simon's pretty good. I would keep Simon that way. Yeah.
Right. But I want to see them use cultural stereotypes from other countries. Like there has to be, like, forget just American ones. What crazy Japanese stereotypes can we place on these characters that we aren't aware of? But
Steven says thank goodness Zelda was only on Fridays. But I loved it though. when it came on, I was all about it. I was like, it's the Zelda day, it's our 15 minutes of Zelda or whatever it was. And yeah.
My father was gifted a Sony, was it TV Man? It was like this, it was like the size of a cell phone that had like a little black and white screen that you'd pop open an antenna and you could get TV signals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he was given this instead of like money for a job, And so he's like, and so at the time, I'd have to run around with him after school to do various errands he had to do for he had a security company, so he had to check in at different places. Fridays was the day he had to do it. So it took up like 2 or 3 hours. And so he handed me that so I could tune in to the Zelda episodes of the Mario cartoon, right? And I would watch them in the shitty black and white, like fading in and out. And it would come through, excuse me. Like,
what do you say? What do you say, princess or prince? I don't know. What do you say? But yeah. You know what I always wanted from back then that my spoiled ass never got because that was way too spoiled for my spoiled ass was Play Choice 10. Remember seeing that like in like Nintendo magazines? It like played like
well, it was
10
an arcade
Nintendo
system.
It's like an arcade stand-up thing, and
it had a Chuck E. Cheese.
It had like I don't know if either it had 10 games just built into it or if you took 10 cartridges like and you could change them. I don't know, but I was wanting that
10 cartridges,
10 carts,
You just selected
like 10 cart readers in there, and then it would just load.
And it had a timer. You played up based on a timer,
mm-hmm.
So you could switch around the different games.
Yeah, I played it at the arcade before. I did play it. I remember playing to play Super Mario Brothers. And I was really good at Mario, like super good at the first Mario game, the first 3. But then sucking at it at the arcade because of the controller being wrong. The joystick not really working and being as responsive.
The controller.
It matters. It matters. When you play at my Mario speed, when you play at my speed, bro,
controller's fault.
You'll die. You'll die. You'll die if you don't have the right setup. It's true.
It's always a controller's fault. Yeah,
it's always the controller's fault if it's not the right controller. But yeah, I bought those little Nintendo controllers, like the NES controllers for the Switch, and I bought the kids Switch Lites, and it was like, hey, since you bought this, you could order these for like this discounted price. I was like, oh, okay. So I go and I buy it. They come and you can't charge them because they're meant for the docking station on the Switch, and there's no way to charge them if you have a Switch Lite. They don't tell you that. They just want to sell you the controller. Like, so I ended up having to buy a docking station and had to hack it. I had to like break it in half, like resolder it, and I had to make a docking station for the NES controllers. That's how serious I am about the right controllers on those old.
You know how Nintendo they did that to me. They got me on the GameCube with that GBA thing, right? Mm-hmm. These little, so Crystal Chronicles came out and it was like this 4-player.
I remember that.
Technically a Final Fantasy game, but it wasn't Final Fantasy, if I come to find out. But I thought it would be, right? So it's supposed to have 4-player co-op if you all hooked up a Game Boy Advance.
Right.
The thing is the adapter that hooks onto the Game Boy Advance covers up, Jason. It covers up the AC cord.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have your Game Boy Advance charging
right
while you use this, right? You got to run through batteries. And I'm like, I sat there, got a screwdriver, popped open that thing, that adapter. Mm-hmm. The adapter is it just covers it up on purpose. So you can't do that,
Yeah.
There's no logical reason for it. So I just broke all of those adapters so I can get them all plugged in and hook up the DC cable. I'm like, fuck this. I'm not. Because the Game Boy Advance lasted like 30, 40 minutes, with that screen on the whole time, like whatever.
Yeah. I remember that. All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow talking about the next episode of The Mandalorian. I'm going to stay awake tonight, but I'm not going to do a show tonight. I'm going to do a show earlier in the morning with Rob after Rob sees it. So I'm going to be excited because it's one that has a lot of stuff that I reported on MakingStarWars.net. A lot of it comes to fruition in this episode. A lot of the people that were saying I had everything wrong this season are all wrong, and so I'm excited about it because I'm petty like that. But anyways, do we have anything else to add about Mario before we go? Any last Mario things, or have we said it all? I feel like I had
one other suggestion In the movie, he plays an NES.
Yeah.
And he plays Kid Icarus. I thought a more fitting tribute might have been Pinball.
Yeah.
Because the original NES Pinball was programmed by Satoru Iwata.
Mario's in it.
Who they did give. He's in this. You don't have to show that subsection, but you could have had him for the minimal amount of time he plays that game. You know, like I would have probably done that. But yeah, there is an NES in their world, but there's no Mario games on it. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, not yet. Not until after this adventure. Because remember Mario 3 with stage play? It's like a stage play of the first game.
Yeah, I know they say that, but
it is. It's real. You can fall behind the set if you hold down on the white block. You fall down and go in the back.
I think about that with Star Wars in the volume. It's just a stage play. Like it's just.
Listen, Rob, it's Star Wars dinner theater. But the good news is, I have not heard one person dislike tonight's episode. Everybody really loves tonight's episode. So, you know,
we'll tune in tomorrow, Jason. There's a first.
Oh God, I'm not challenging you. It's not a challenge, Rob.
Because from what I've seen, I was unimpressed. So we'll see.
It's not a challenge, but yeah. All right, everybody. We'll talk to.
I got a question really quickly before we go. Have you noticed everyone over complimenting things now, like on YouTube videos? Because the Marvels trailer came out. I'm like, I'll watch this, and I'm like, I want to see what people think about this. And everyone's like praising it a little too much, like a little too raff. You know what I mean? Like. I can't. It's hard to get passive aggressiveness, but it wasn't just there. I started noticing other videos, where normally people complain, you know, and then all of a sudden I'm getting a video for like how Inspector Gadget 2 is the greatest cinema of all time, and I'm like, clearly this is a goof. But like, I wonder if passive aggression compliments now are the new YouTube thing. Like,
well, Rob, I can report to you that we're not getting any positive compliments. Therefore,
yeah, I know. I suspect I will be the exception to that rule.
Yeah,
Reddit hates you and YouTube hates me, so that's how it works.
Well, then we're just going to call it a show. I'm not even going to play the credits because we don't have a do the Mario swing.